I have the pleasure of having with me tonight Brother Donald Bland in the comfort of his home in Phoenix, Arizona. And also we have Tone Austin in the comfort of his home in Seattle, Washington. And I'm your good brother, Greg Lacey. All of us Beta Nu Noops, all of us Spring Noops. We're going to start with Spring 1961 with Brother Bland, Spring 1984 with Tone Austin, and I'm here holding down the fort with Spring 86. Brother Bland, thank you very much. We are so honored tonight to have you just be with us tonight, but also during the day on this coming weekend when we meet with the brothers as we do our inaugural Beta Nu Alumni Association's Charter Day weekend. And we're happy to have you. You are a pioneer, a trailblazer, and some of us would just simply say you're that Noop that all Noops do appreciate. And so we're happy to have you here tonight. And I just have one question I want to start off with you that I know brothers often wonder. What or who was it that inspired you to pledge Kappa Alpha Psi?
Well, first of all, brothers, I want to thank you for the honor, privilege of being recorded for this video, for this enormously unique and iconic journey that you're about to start on, the inaugural of the Beta Nu alumni. It's really, really special. And I thank you for inviting me and allowing me to record this because unfortunately I cannot be there. I would love to be there, but duty calls here at home. So to respond to your question, I have to give you a little bit of background. Before I went off to college, in fact, in my formative years, young years, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. And unlike most African Americans, I grew up on the South Side, which was largely a European kind of environment with German, Italian, Polish, Jewish, and many others, different than the way it looks today. But my grandfather, who graduated from Purdue University around the turn of the century with a degree in mechanical engineering, bought that home. My mother and father divorced when I was 2. We actually lived in Kirkwood, although I was born in St. Louis. And my mother moved in with her mother, my grandmother, and my grandfather. And that's where I grew up, down on Michigan Avenue in South St. Louis, Missouri. So you can imagine there weren't very many local role models for me, but the role models that I had were inside my family. So I'm 3rd generation college graduate. Growing up around me were my mother with a master's degree in social work, my grandfather with his degree in mechanical engineering teaching in the high schools of St. Louis, my sister, a principal in the schools, my aunt, a teacher in Webster Groves, and all around the family, and even outside of St. Louis, education was primary. Education was important. And so I knew at a young age, I was going to college before I even knew what college meant. And so I'm surrounded by achievers. Didn't call them that at that time, but surrounded by achievers. When I went off to college at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, Omega chapter was there. It was the only African-American fraternity on the campus. There were only 5,000 students at the time. at Drake. So I became interested. There were just a few brothers there, perhaps no more than 10 or 12. But I became interested because the gentlemen that I met were gentlemen and were achievers and were smart and they were engaged and they were involved in things going on. And so I like them. I like those men of Kappa. And so I decided to pledge. Now, what happened was that you're not allowed to pledge in your freshman year. So I pledged in the fall or the spring of my sophomore year. Then I transferred back to St. Louis because now I had a wife and a family on the way. Where did I go? Harris Stowe State University, it's called now. But it was just Harris Teachers College back in the day. And so I went there. I pledged again in the fall of 60 and was initiated in the spring of 61. Again, great brothers, achievers, involved, engaged, literate, spoke well, and were friends. So it just kind of mushroomed from there. I just grew up in Beta Nu, in Kappa. And I don't know what else to say except what a great experience. It's all about achievement, brothers, all about achievement.
All about achievement, indeed, indeed. And you became a member of the Beta Nu chapter in 1961 during that first 20 years of the chapter. It was founded, as we know, in 1942. Here in 1961, you're part of that first generation, if you will, of the Beta Nu chapter. Describe Beta Nu in those days, those early days, for the brothers who are listening to us today.
Well, I'm sharing a picture with you. In fact, a couple of pictures so you can take a look at those brothers. But they were all, those brothers were smart, first of all. And I go back to the days of Thomas E. Gray, who wound up with IBM, Paul Miller and Sons Beauty Supply that he ran, and ultimately he was on the board of the Gateway National Bank, helped start that. Bill Boyd, who still lives in St. Louis, was a principal, became a principal. And all of these brothers, even though those on my line, but the rest of the brothers on the campus were just, again, achievers. But we were small. In those days, we met in one another's homes. And by homes, typically we were talking about apartments. We didn't live in grandiose homes and so forth in those days. Well, Paul Miller lived in a nice home across from Fairgrounds Park. But basically, and I grew up, of course, in a home in South St. Louis. But one of the really significant things that I experienced, and I was the keeper of records for the chapter. So I had the privilege of knowing two of the founders. And one of the founders was Edward G. Irvin. The other, Brother Irvin, lived in Chicago. And Brother Irvin was known to travel around to the undergraduate chapters. He had a passion for the undergraduate members. And one time I came into the meeting at Brother David Parr's house, who's still in St. Louis, by the way. And there, sitting on a chair, just as casual as could be, dressed, of course, we all dressed for meetings, suit and tie, was Founder Irvin. What a pleasure to sit in the midst of a founder and hold a meeting. So we commenced with the meeting, and he wasn't one for, being all stuffy and have to be, exalted and what have you. He's just there. He's a brother. I read the minutes. Then they went on to the next report. Brother Irvin said, wait a minute, stop, hold everything. Did you hear the way that Brother Bland read those minutes? He said, that's the way the minutes should be read. And brothers, I will tell you, that was the proudest moment of my life, other than going through the ritual, of course, but to have a founder to compliment me in the midst of our meeting. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Our meetings always had a repast that usually the mother of one of the brothers had fixed, whose ever home we were in. And our meetings were conducted by the book, by the ritual, with the song, with everything, with the decorum that is required of an undergraduate meeting. And that's exactly the way I grew up in Beta Nu. That's the kind of chapter.
That is an incredible just story and recounting of a founder not only being present, but acknowledging you're taking care of business as the keeper of records. So yo to you for being on point in front of a founder. And I think this is the first time I've ever heard a brother say, not just simply that they met a founder, but just getting that feedback from a founder like that, particularly as an undergrad. That must have been a fantastic experience. And so, of course, I can understand that being a rich part of your history and your memories for your time in the chapter. So that's a fantastic story, which leads me, that was a fantastic memory. What would you say what would be one of your fondest memories during your chapter? I don't know if you can really top that one, having a founder say, do it like him, basically, but any other fond memories you have?
Yeah, I think, you know, I was initiated in 61, so I was a junior. So I didn't have that long to be with Beta Nu. But I think, you know, it's hard to go back that far and remember anything as significant as being recognized by the founder. But I will tell you that the camaraderie in general of the Beta Nu chapter in those days was very, very special indeed. And within my line, we stayed together. One of the things that you're taught when you go through the induction process in Kappa is that you are stand up for your brother. You protect your brother. You give your life for your brother, poetically. We did that. We stayed together, not to the exclusion of Beta Nu, but actually to the improvement of Beta Nu, showing of our togetherness. We hung out together. We had fun together. We just stayed together as a line. The Kappa ship menthol. And why would we name the Kappa ship menthol? Because each of us at those times were naughty in that we all smoked cigarettes. And all of us smoked a different brand of cigarettes. And so I was Dog Salem. Brother was Dog Cool. And Brother Boyd was Dog Spring, and so on. You know, we covered all five of the brands. But I would just say that the chapter was about business. We gave parties, we gave fundraisers at the Tom Powell Post. Nobody knows anything about that anymore. You could get in for 50 cents, and they had dancing and so forth. And just the things that we planned and the things that we did, you know, on the campus and outside of the campus were just always, I'll remember them forever. I have a lot of pictures somewhere. I just don't know where they are at this point. That's before digital.
Now, Brother Bland, do you recall, you mentioned meetings, right? You mentioned meetings in the house then, which were apartments for brothers, you know, with their families. Do you recall what day, how often did you all meet, and what day of the week did you meet?
Oh, when we were meeting, we met on Saturdays,
Okay.
usually in the afternoon, and we met once a month.
Okay. Okay. Well, just a little bit of the later history for you. There came a time that predated me, predated Tone Austin as well, where the chapter met on Wednesdays, but it was every Wednesday. So we had a meeting every week. We would have a formal meeting once a month, but we met every Wednesday, every week. And we're going to get to the bottom of when that started. So it started apparently after your year. After you left the Beta Nu chapter, we're going to get to the bottom of it.
Let me respond to that. When we were going through the process as scrollers, we met on Wednesdays.
Okay.
Every Wednesday.
Ah.
That was our training period, our time to learn, our time to recite what we had learned, be tested, and so forth. So those Wednesdays were back then, but they were primarily for we as pledges.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I did misspeak because now that I think about it, we met on Sundays.
Okay.
Met mostly on Sundays, now that I recall, as a chapter, as Beta Nu chapter, when we met at the homes. We met
Do
on
you remember how many brothers approximately were in the chapter at that time?
Probably no more than 15 to 20, and and not all of them were really active. Some of them were not in good standing. So I would say 15 to 20 in that range.
You mentioned your line brother, and I want to brothers rather, and I want to acknowledge K.S. Menthol, Paul Miller, who's gone to the chapter Invisible,
Right.
William Boyd that you mentioned, of course yourself being.
Yeah, I was the second. Moby was the tallest, and then I was right in front of him.
Ah, okay.
Paul was the captain.
And see, we're gonna have to get that straight on our chapter on our website for the chapter. You had a great relationship with your line brothers. Our line brothers we call ships today. Sometimes we call them sand. What did you all refer to one another back then and even now?
We were shippies.
Shippies. Okay.
Yeah. Our ship. Hey, ship.
Gotcha.
Hey, ship. Hey, ship.
All right, perfect. Brother Bland, I think it's an understatement to say you are an accomplished brother. It's an understatement. I mean, we first start by those things that are important. You're the husband to Yvonne Bland. You are a father to Donovan Bland, who's a medical doctor and a brother of the bond as well through the Beta Chi of Kappa Alpha Psi. Yourself, you are a successful retired senior level executive with your career ending at Walmart. However, you had a storied career with a few other companies before then, but I know you did round out your career after having established tremendous locations across the globe in Canada, in Argentina, and other places. You were the head of divisions and the man, if you will, chief operating officer, president, and so on and so forth. So that list is tremendous. And a part of that list, in addition to other recognitions and awards, that tremendous Elder Watson Diggs Award that you received in 2009. All of those other things are fantastic and are extremely noteworthy. But for our discussion today, tell us, what did it mean to you when you were awarded the Elder Watson Diggs Award?
Wow. Well, now you're going into something that is another very significant happening in my life, very significant event. But for some background, all of those places where I lived across the country, not out of the country because we didn't have chapters in Canada at that time and in Argentina, but every place else that I lived, I always connected with the chapter. So whether it be in Chicago, where we started Maywood Wheaton Alumni Chapter, went on 50 years ago, and I can't wait for the 50th. I hope I'm blessed to stay there and be there. On to Wichita, Kansas, where I was pole marked there, and then back to Arkansas, where we started Fayetteville, Arkansas Alumni Chapter, and all around Detroit area, Chicago, etc. What did that mean? It meant that I had an opportunity to interface and know brothers from around the country. And they all, in one way or another, touched my life, had an impact on my life, educated me, trained me, gave me the opportunity to get to know the best of each other. When I received the Diggs Award, and again, when I was notified that I was being nominated for the Diggs Award, I was incredulous. I never was one who sought awards because achievement was a result of you doing the hard work, and any accolades or honors that you receive came as a result of that, not as a quest for glory, but as a result of doing a good job in the fraternity and outside the fraternity, in your career and in your family. So it became as a surprise to me. It took me a while to say I would accept because, again, the second highest award in the fraternity, I didn't think I was worthy, honestly. I really didn't. But I did accept, and the petition was approved, and I received the award, as you said, with my family, especially my son, who was already now a Kappa. But at the ceremonies, I said on several occasions, I share this award with all of the brothers that I have met across the country, around the world, because of the impact they had on me. So it's never, I never looked at it as I did this. It's all about me. It's all about the brotherhood and the difference that they made in my life.
And Brother Bland, it's all about achievement in every field of human endeavor, which you have exemplified, not just simply in your career, not just simply in the bond, not just simply with your family, but across all of that and then some. And that is the reason that we can celebrate you, our brother from Beta Nu. Likewise, Brother Ivory Johnson is also from our chapter, an Elder Watson Diggs Awardee. Two brothers in the same era from our chapter gives us not only a lot to be proud of, but a lot to aspire to, not for an award's sake, but like you mentioned, but just simply to do what we need to do to demonstrate achievement. So I tip my hat to you, brother, for that, which
Thank you. I just want to mention, I didn't mention Brother Johnson, and there were others. Brother Johnson and I are still friends to this day. And whenever we see each other, we take a classic picture of the two of us together. It's just that memorable. He was a year, I think he was 2 years ahead of me. I think he went in 59 and
yes.
61, but he made me. And I just really look up to him. Again, another brother who made an impact on me, who touched my life.
You know, this weekend, as we renew our commitment to Beta Nu as an alumni association, not taking the place of the alumni chapter, of course. We have the alumni chapter, which hopefully we all are active with, or we'll think about being active with. But as we reconnect with other Beta Nu brothers this weekend, and we focus on building and strengthening and redefining the Beta Nu legacy, what advice would you offer to the current brothers who are in the chapter right now as undergrad brothers in Beta Nu? What advice would you offer to them?
That's one of my favorite topics because we have to think about the future. What is the future of Kappa Alpha Psi? It is in the hands of the younger brothers. And brothers who espouse that, who believe in that, are the ones who are going to help take this organization further. Now, what should they be doing? And what should they be guided to do or mentored to do? You want to find out as much about the fraternity as you can. Now, how do you do that? You can read about it in the history. That's one way. You can go to the chapter meetings and spend time out in the meeting and, of course, outside of the meeting, where you have a chance to fraternize and just get to know again what all these brothers are about. But what I found was by going to every event outside of where my chapter was is the learning spot. The real education about Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity is the grand chapter meeting. I would encourage them never to miss one. And if these are younger brothers, or maybe undergraduates still. We as alumni brothers should find a way to help them pay for a trip to the Grand Chapter meeting. We can drive the finest automobiles, live in the finest houses, take the most luxurious vacations. Can we sponsor a brother to go and get an education at Grand Chapter meeting? What happens at Grand Chapter meeting? We learn the business of the fraternity. We learn how fraternity is conducted. We learn about protocol. Very important. I'm a big fan of protocol, how meetings should be conducted, how brothers should be addressed. Never, never, never call the poll mark for the poll. Never, ever, ever do it. What else? We learn to meet and greet others that we've never met before. And when we go back for subsequent Grand Chapter meetings, we'll see those brothers again and have a chance to renew the relationship that we started maybe at our first one and carry it on over the years to the point where you walk in the door and they say, Brother Tone, good to see you again. How you doing? How's the family? What's up? Let's sit over here and kick it a little bit. You know, maybe have an adult beverage. Have some lunch. Okay, go out and smoke a cigar. All of those are just great learning experiences. You can cascade down from that and get a little bit more parochial by attending your province council. But again, 5, 6, 7 states. How many brothers are there? You know, now we conduct the MTA at the province councils. Again, meet some of those same brothers, but now they're a little closer in. See Roger Wilson, absolutely. Training opportunity. Even if you think you know everything, keep going because you might be able to lend some assistance to another brother. Brothers will come up to you and say, brother, you've done this and you've done that. Tell me how did you do it? What did you do? How did you get there? How did you get from there to here? And so it's all really rich and rewarding. Brothers who don't take advantage of attending Grand Chapter meetings, province council meeting, see Roger Wilson and other wide-reaching events miss out on learning. So that's my greatest advice. Get to know the brothers around the country and out of the country. Go for the experience. Go for the knowledge.
And brother, that is why we're here this weekend, reuniting ourselves with each other, with the undergrads, for that exact reason, so that we could form that bond where we can learn from each other. We can guide the younger brothers and we can grow. Grow with our association, grow with our alumni chapters, and do those things that you gave. And I took notes so that we can make sure we're doing it. Privileged to have you here with us. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom, the history that you provided to us, and the knowledge that you bestowed on us. We really appreciate you, brother.
You're welcome. And